Well, I managed to be tagged by three separate people within 24 hours. Each a different tag. So I've got the book, Lustorium, I gotta do the Irrational Hate, and what grinds my gears. So I figured I'm gonna do all three in one video and just do them in order. But first of all, a small announcement. My channel is just under 100 subs. I currently have 96. So sometime in the next couple weeks or sooner I should have 100 subs. So once I get over 100 for sure, I'm going to be doing a question and answers video as usually the par. So if anybody has any questions that they want to ask me, prepare a list and I'll do them when I get the chance. I'll post another video on that as I get closer. Now that's out of the way, I have my three shoutouts. The first one is what really grinds my gears. And these are a bunch of things that just tick me off, but what really grinds my gears is great movies that missed the boat. I mean, these are movies that have awesome ideas. They should be good. You look at the plot, you look at the idea, and they're going to be great. And then they suck. The big ones that come to mind are the Transformers movies, where it's a great idea, but other than the last one, even that's not that great. They were horrible. And what seems to be, you've got Rain of Fire. What could go wrong with a movie about dragons in this, taking over the world? Oh, the fact that they almost do nothing and they're sort of side guests in their own movie. Aliens versus Predator. Where they come to Earth and they're invading and it's so remote that nothing actually happens. The second movie seemed to fix this a bit by moving it to an actual inhabited area, and then the Predator seemed to be more of a guest star in his own movie. And I guess that's part of the problem with movies that miss a boat. The main characters are guest stars. The other thing I really hate is bold assertions without reason evidence. People just say, "Well, this is true," without giving a reason for it. They just assert that it is true. Another one that kind of grinds my gears. This is kind of petty, but patches announced 2-3 days before they're going to come out for games and whatnot, that you now have to spend the next couple of days waiting for. You see it, you really want to get excited, you want to know what's in it, but you've got to wait. That's it for grinds my gears. Now on to my irrational hates. This is kind of silly, but these things aren't too huge. But for me, cold water I irrationally hate. And I've actually jumped literally out of water because it was cold. It was camping with the school, and I jumped in the lake, and it was so cold I just jumped out of the water and onto the pier. I just jumped off. It was that cold, and it hit me with that strongly. Another irrational hate is crisscrosses. I'm gonna make you jump, after I had to spend 20 minutes listening to it over and over and over and over because the jukebox broke down in the middle of it. Let's see. Oh yeah, websites like YouTube and whatnot that have these upgrades, which are never, ever upgrades, and they're always just making things worse. Like can somebody explain to me what mentality goes into making these kind of changes? You know, these aren't the greatest irrational hates because I don't really hate too many things, but these things I do tick off. Oh, and I hate onions. I can't stand the acidity. I can taste and smell onions. Heck, I can taste and smell if the knife used to cut something had onion on it, minorly. Now for books. Well, one of my favorite books of all time is called St. Peter's Wolf. It's a werewolf book and a very good one. I would recommend it. Most of these things are going to be werewolf stuff because that's what I like. Another one is the Kitty series. Kitty Goes to Washington, Kitty in the Midnight Hour, Kitty's House of Horrors and whatnot, where it's a radio personality that does a hour-long midnight show talking about prenaturals and try to help supernatural creatures get through their problems. So it's kind of an interesting series. A non-werewolf book that I would recommend is Rapture Ready, which is by a agnostic Jew dealing with, looking at the Pentecostal and the fundamentalist Christians, and going into the culture and learning about it from an outsider. Another similar book is The Good Book, which is by a Jew reading the Jewish Bible from beginning to end, all in one go, and his thoughts as he does it, giving sort of a commentary on each and every book. He had read the book and heard all these stories, but this is his first time actually reading it in its totality. So it's a really interesting book to hear his take on these stories and how he understood them. Rather interesting, good read. I'd recommend pretty much any book on evolution. There's lots of really good ones. Evolution versus Creationism, which gives you a list of arguments that are used in refutations. Your Inner Fish. Relics of Eden, which goes into all the things in DNA and whatnot that prove evolution and show you how we get from evolution there. How to Build a Dinosaur, which talks about some of the stuff about evolution and how the plans are to create a dinosaur out of a chicken and so on. So these are some really good books. I hope some of you might find them interesting. If you like werewolves, the two books I mentioned are really good. I also really enjoyed The Lonely Werewolf and the sequel to I can't remember the name right now. So these are my tags. I know they're not great, but I don't really get angry about too many things, so they're kind of silly things. But here's my video, and if you remember, like I said, if you have any questions, keep track, and I'll do an answers and questions video sometime soon for you guys to post them.